Beruchim haboim, welcome everyone. We're about to begin Be'ezras Hashem together in Daf Mem Zayin Amud Beis, 2 lines from the top. The Gemara previously told us that in regards to a coppersmith's bed, which has different parts, different sections, and is assembled and reassembled when he travels, and we saw the opinion of Hashem Gamaliel that said there are 3 different things. One, in regards to then putting back the bed in a light way, he said that's mutter lechatchila. If you do it tightly, it's asur midrabanan because maybe you'll come to then put nails in it. And of course, if you put nails in it, then it's asur midiaraisa make bepatish, one of the lametes malachos. The Gemara now continues in regards to such a bed. Beirav chamo hava mita glalanisa. Rav Chama had such a bed that had parts, different sections to it. And he would then put it together on Yom Tiv. One of the Rabbanan said to Rav, this actually should be Rav Chama. What is your opinion? Do you say this is mutter to do, to reassemble such a bed with different parts to it? Because it's a binyan min atzad, it's an unusual way of building. That means you're doing with a shinui. Nihi de isur daraisa leko isur drabanan mi'ika. Although it may not be an isur daraisa to build such a bed with a shinui, but nonetheless it should be asur drabanan. So why are you able to then build such a thing on Yom Tiv? I am of the opinion of Rabbi Shimon Gamliel, that if you put together, reassemble such a bed in a way that's rafui, that it's very lightly put together, in a way that is put in an untight manner, that is mutter lechatchila. Again, Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says only if you're going to put it mahadak, in a way that's going to be tight, then there's a concern that you might go ahead and nail it down. Then the Chacham said it's osir. But if you put it in a way that it's weak, roughly, then it's mutter lechatchila. Says the Mishnah, new Mishnah, moistening kli tachas haner lekabo nitzoitzos. We saw such a Mishnah earlier. The Mishnah says that a person can put a kli underneath a ner to mekabel the nitzoitzos, the sparks that fly out of the ner. The Mishnah goes on to say, however, but you cannot put water in this ka'ara, in this kli, because it will mechabe the sparks. So Gemara is going to have to explain exactly what is the isur, the problem over here. Says the Gemara, how can you move, going back to the ratio of the Mishnah, that you can move a kli to mekabel the nitzoitz of the sparks of the snare? Hare, you're then going to be putting a kli that is usable and movable, and you're going to put it in a place that's going to mekabel nitzoitzos. The assumption over here is then you're going to then mevatel the kli mehechono. It will now no longer be able to be used. And therefore Rashi explained, and others, that this is like a malacha, it's similar to a malacha of boina that you're building because you're attaching it to the ground. Others learn. Also, Rashi says in another place, it's like soisa, the opposite. It's actually you're breaking down a kli. So therefore, how can you do that? To which the Gemara answers, nitzoitos ein bohen mamish. The sparks don't have anything of substance, whereby the moment after the sparks hit the kli, they dissipate, there's nothing there anymore, and therefore you can go ahead and move the kli. By the way, the Gemara had asked earlier, also in regards to moving the kli, how can you move the kli to mekabel the nitzoitzos? Hare ein nitel a kli ela l'davar hanitel. And therefore, how can you move a kli that is movable for a problem of muktzah? To which they answered the Gemara that you needed the place of where the kli was. And that's the ukimta here in the Mishnah as well. Once you needed the place, you can pick up the kli for the place that you need the place for, and then you can move the kli wherever you want. In this case, the mekabel and nitzoitzos. Says the Gemara, now going to the Seif of our Mishnah, however, you cannot put water into that kli because it will mechabe the sparks. Let us suggest that our Mishnah is like Rabbi Yossi, the Omar Gorem lekibui osir. Who says gram kibui is osir? In other words, in a situation when there's a fire, so the Chachamim said that you can go ahead and put even a earthenware vessel filled with water in front of that fire, knowing that indeed it's going to then melt down the earthenware vessel, causing the water to then be poured over the fire. That's the Chachamim's opinion. However, Rabbi Yossi says in such a situation, you cannot do that because gram kibui is osir. So let's suggest that he is the author of our Mishnah, that you cannot put water into this kli to mekabel and it's because it's gram kibui. Ask the Gemara, v'tizbara. Eimor da Omar Rabbi Yossi b'Shabbos. Do you really think so, v'tizbara? When did Rabbi Yossi say this? That's when in regards to Shabbos itself. You can't put a kli, an earthenware kli filled with water on Shabbos to anticipate the fire that is coming. But be'erev Shabbos, mi Omar. But certainly even Rabbi Yossi would agree you could put a cup or a bowl or whatever else you want filled with water, even though it's in an earthenware vessel, before Shabbos. If you'll say that our mission is also talking about putting the water in the kli on Shabbos, but the Brisa says otherwise. It says noisnin kli tachas haner lekabel nitzoyze b'Shabbos vein tzorich learn be'erev Shabbos. In regards to the ratio of our Mishnah, the Brisa says, explains that you can go ahead and put a kli to mekabel the nitzoyzos not only on erev Shabbos but even on Shabbos. But you cannot put water into the kli not on erev Shabbos, and certainly you cannot put it on Shabbos. Answers the Gemara, we're talking about even according to Rabban in our Mishnah. So what's the problem to put water into the kli to mekabel the nitzoytzos that we're going to fly out of the ner? Shiny hocha, here it's different. Here there's a concern that you will come and mekarev, the putting out of the fire. In other words, if you're going to put water into a kli even before Shabbos to catch the nitzoytzos that fly out of the ner, so it's likely the Chacham were concerned that you will then go ahead and raise the vessel to mekabel the nitzoytzos, and then you'll be on over an isser of mimechabe. And therefore they said this is prohibited. Hadron aloch kira. The new parak begins with the prohibition of hatmana. Before we go into hatmana, we had discussed previously the isser of putting a pot on a flame on Shabbos because it looks like you're going to cook on Shabbos. So the Chachamim said it's also to put a pot on a flame on Shabbos called Nesina Lechatchila. The Rabbanon of Chananya also taught us when it comes to Shihiyah, if a person wants to maintain a pot on a flame, even though he puts it on before Shabbos, he can't put it on an open flame. He has to do what's called grufa or ketuma. He has to make sure that the coals have been taken away, taken out, or put ashes on top of them to then reduce the heat, showing that he's not interested in the heat that comes out of those coals that are remaining. Then he can go ahead and maintain a pot on such a fire. That's called shihiyah. We also learn in regards to chazorah, if a person takes off a pot from a flame, although it was fully cooked, he can't just return it. He has to make sure that it's not only fully cooked, but it also was grufa ketuma, that it was covered either with ashes or that the coals were taken out. And we added that he has to have das to put it back. And we also learned a t'nai that he still holds on to the pot. When he takes it off, he can go ahead and return it back onto the fire. Now, the Gemara is talking about hatmana, which we also discussed. There's two different types of hatmana, of insulating. There's hatmana of davar that is moisif hevel, that adds the intensity of heat when a person insulates with certain things, which the Mishnah is going to discuss. Here the concern was if a person is going to then be matmin b'davar hamoisif hevel, then he might then go ahead and be matmin in something like coals or embers, and thereby he'll come to then also then stoke those coals and be over an Isur Deraisa of Havara on Shabbos, and therefore they said it's also to be matmin a davar shemoisif hevel even before Shabbos. Then there's another aspect of hatmana, an additional Isur of hatmana, insulating with davar that's not moisif hevel, that just keeps, that just is shomer on the warmth of the item. And the Chachamim asked that to be done on Shabbos, and they said because you might find that the pot cooled off, and then you'll come to then reheat it on Shabbos. So they said that's awesome. Says the Mishnah, Ka bameh toimlin uvameh ein toimlin. Which things can a person matmin? Here's talking about now before Shabbos. Which things can be a person matmin because it's a davar that's not moisif hevel? Uvameh ein toimlin. And which things can a person not be matmin? Can he not insulate with even before Shabbos because it is moisif hevel? The Mishnah answers, Ein toimnin loy begefes. A person cannot be matmin with the following things that are moisif hevel even before Shabbos. Lo begefes. Gefes is the remaining parts of the olives after it is pressed down. That cannot be used to then insulate one's pot. V'loy bezevel, and also not with manure. V'loy bemelach, not with salt. V'loy besid, and not with lime. V'loy bechol, and not with sand. Bein lachin, bein yaveshin, whether it's moist or it's dry. Whether it's moist or dry, it's still going to be moisif hevel, and therefore you cannot insulate with these things even before Shabbos. The Mishnah goes on to explain other things that would be a problem to be insulating with if they're moist. However, if they're dry, then it's okay. As follows: Loy beteven, not with straw. V'loy bezagin, and not with the peels of the grapes after it was pressed. V'loy bemoichin, and not with the soft items like wool or like cotton. V'loy ba'asavin, and not with grass. Bizman shehein lachin. So long as they're still moist, all of these things are moisif hevel. And therefore you cannot insulate even before Shabbos with these items. Aval toimnin bohen keshehein yeveshin. But you could indeed insulate with these things when they're dry because they are not moisif hevel then. Says our Gemara, commenting now on the Mishnah asking, Iboy lahu. This first item that we said is moisif hevel, whether it's moist or whether it's dry. Gefes shall zeisin. Tnan, aval the shumshamin, some pronounce it sumsamin, shaperdomi, but that which is left over sesame seeds after it was crushed and taking its oil out, that you could indeed insulate. O dilma de sumshamin, not Tnan, the kosher came to zeisin. Or are we talking about when we said gefes, it's referring to the psoilus of the sesame seeds, and kosher came, the psoilus of the zeisin. In other words, is the sesame seeds, the leftover, the sesame seeds, are they moisif hevel or not? Says the Gemara Toshma, let's bring the following proof. Dom Rabbi Zera mishum chad, the Bei Rabbi Yonai, kupa. If a person was matmin, was insulating his food in a box with something that was not moisif hevel, lahanicha al gefes shel zeisim. He says that a person did that. It's also lahanicha al gefes shel zeisim. It will be prohibited to then put that box that was insulated with something that's not moisif hevel on top of gefes shel zeisim because of the extreme heat that the gefes shel zeisim will provide. It will be a problem to then put such an item on the gefes shel zeisim because of its intensive heat. Shma mina shel zeisim tnan. Therefore, we can prove from this brisa that indeed it would be also to then be matmin only with gefesh shel zeisim, but not gefesh shel shum shamin. The Gemara says, no, la'olam eimaloch le'inyan hatmana de shum shamin nami aser. Really, I'll tell you that to insulate with the psoilus of sesame seeds would also be problematic because it's also moisif hevel. However, le'in asuke havla, in regards to then causing the hevel, the heat to rise, that's different in regards to the heat, the intensity of the psoilus of the zeisim. The zeisim maski havla, the shum shmi lo maski havla. The zeisim, the psoilus of the zeisim, the gefesh shel zeisim, that is so intense that it will cause then the heat to rise up. Whereby if you take a box that was insulated with the davar she'eino moisiv hevel and put it on top of that, that's osir. But when it comes to the gefesh shel shum shamin, that's not maski havla. But in regards to then insulating with the psoilus of the shum shamin, of the gefesh shel shum shamin, that would be considered moisif hevel, and that would also be osir.